The best way to describe the main characteristic of Roman sculptures is that the artist's goal was to impress. Once moving more away from the Greek influences, as well as copying, of these beautiful and elegant sculptures, they became more monumental with massive statues of emperors, gods, and heroes. For Roman statues were meant to impress other nations and show off their power. The vast majority of these sculptures and structures were made of a famous leader or god and created after a victorious battle or conquest, and for religious ceremonies as well. There are no mythical creatures of nude sculptures of women in Rome, as their high standing of art was meant to show off the might of the vast Roman Empire, not to entice imagination such as their Greek counterparts. There are a few examples of ordinary people, but not much. And all Roman emperors had their statues publicly displayed, and statues of Marcus Aurelius, Caesar, and Vespasian all exist today. Sculptures also played a significant role in most landowners' gardens. And during the beginning of Roman sculpting, there was a massive amount of copying of the works of the Greeks, with almost this conveyor belt style manufacturing going on. The Romans mainly worked with stone, precious metals, glass, and terracotta, but favored bronze and marble. However, as the metal has always been in high demand and reuse, most of the full Roman sculptures are in marble. Bronze statues were made using the lost wax technique involving a clay mold. They were often embellished with silver or stone eyes, teeth and nails, and copper eyelashes and nipples, but few bronze statues actually remain. Most were melted down to make weapons, kitchen utensils, etc. One of these heroes was the Colossus of Constantine. Constantine, in a historical sense, was the emperor of Rome between 306 through 337 AD. His history begins with his great military conquest during his father's rule. Then, after his father's death, Constantine starts strengthening the empire through government restructuring, fighting inflation with new standardized currency, and separating power between civil and military authorities. Because of this, along with other notable actions, Constantine became an essential part of history of late Rome. The statue itself did not leave Musei Capitolini until 2006, for it was created there as a political appreciation for the great emperor. However, during the area known as the late antiquity, the figure was cannibalized for its bronze body pieces. On one hand, Constantine holds a scepter, and in the other, the Christian symbol of HWill monogram, which initially was a symbol of Constantine ordered to be put on his soldier's shield during his rule. The emblem represents victory and divine protection, which fits well as the great emperor and military leader overlooks his surroundings. Beneath the statue, before its deconstruction, there was an engraved phrase, original in Latin, saying, "By virtue of this good sign, which is true test of valor, I have preserved and liberated your city from the yoke of tyranny. I have also set the liberty, the Roman Senate and people, and restored them to their old distinction and splendor." Much like the Greeks, the Romans favored making statues of their gods. When Roman emperors began to claim divinity, they too would have giant statues made, often making an authoritative stance. A good example of this is Augustus of Prime Porta of 20 BCE. It gets the latter half of its name from a town in Italy where it was found in the 1800s. In this portrait, Augustus shows himself as a great military victor and a staunch supporter of the Roman religion. The statue also foretells a 200 years of peace that Augustus initiated, called the Pax Romana. With the religious iconography on his armor, it is clear the gods are on his side. Along with him is Cupid and a dolphin, which have been recognized as a representation of his naval victories, as well as his backing from the gods. The Augustus of Prime Porta is an excellent example of sculptures of historically significant figures that are not just a portrait of the individual, but their connection to both their past as well as their roles in Roman history. Speaking of sculptures of important history, one of the most interesting sculptures, in my opinion, is Commodus of Hercules. Unlike the animated film, Hercules was not that good of a person. In a fit of rage, he murdered his own family, and in an attempt to reconcile for his own sins, he went to Apollo for forgiveness. Apollo ordered him to complete a set of tasks for forgiveness, the first of which being to kill a mighty bear for the king Eurystheus, who is depicted in a scene that was somewhat depicted in the piece. As Hercules found arrows no use in battle, he used his club to defeat the bear. However, These are part of the hero's story, but the bust is not of Hercules, but rather the Roman ruler Commodus, who ruled during the decay of Rome, and he often believed to become deranged as he called himself the incarnation of Hercules. And he thought himself to be a god, and this mentality caused him to be murdered in AD 192 in a revolt against him. The statue of marble can be dated to the very end of his life. This piece is a massive exception to the typical Roman characteristics, as it's mostly propaganda of a madman. Towards the top of the bust are themes of Hercules, as stated before, and at the bottom are supposed to be two women, specifically Amazonian women, as it is to represent the killing of Amazon women and Commodus' defeat of an enemy who lived there. However, it still presents that aura of strength of triumph for the king, again mirroring regular Roman characteristics. Conclusion, after moving away from the Greek influence and straight copying, Roman statues were built to present Rome, its heroes, and its gods with the virtue of power and strength, as well as to commemorate their accomplishments. For the most part, it was not trying to be overly expressive, but rather give off this aura of power. Much like the Colossus of Constantine, Roman statues were meant to be massive and authoritative. Like the Augustus of Prime Porta and Commodus as Hercules, any extra embellishing was a nod to either their past accomplishments or to the gods. Thank you.